how are you practicing emotional intelligence? What do you know about emotional intelligence? Nurturing the capacity to understand others will help decision making and change easier.
Hey, this is an anthology of what we want a patient's experience to be like. The reason that I invite guests like you is to expand the scope, not just of physical appearance and how you feel about that, but a greater sense of wholeness, a greater sense of wellness.
You Are Beautiful, podcast with J. Kim, ND.
Welcome to the You Are Beautiful podcast with Dr. J. Kim. I'm J. Kim, a double board certified facial plastic surgeon and founder of the You Are Beautiful Aesthetic Institute. I'm on a mission to make the world a more beautiful place, and I want to start with you. There are 3 undeniable truths that you must embrace. The first is that you are beautiful. The second is that you are unique. And the third is that you are worth it. Let's dive into today's episode. Today, I have a very wonderful guest. She hails from Indiana. Her name is Rhonda Parker Taylor. She is an American author, an educator, an entrepreneur, a master of all things related to self-help and balance. And today we're going to talk about her work as an author and what it means for her to be beautiful, not just on the outside, but also on the inside. So welcome to the show, Rhonda.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I just can't wait to talk about how wonderful all of you are out there in the world, and that it's important that you take those 3 steps from Dr. Kim and put them into practice and understand that your self-talk is important.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about a balance about resilience. And so can you tell me what that means to you and how you've processed that?
For me, because life always seems to come into play at some point and hit when you least expect it. For me, life balance and resilience is being prepared prior to that moment where life hits. You know, balance is having a storage in yourself where you've already put things into play that if there's a financial issue, if there's a physical issue, if there's a disaster somewhere, you've already got the energy because you've nurtured all 13 dimensions of your life. And I started this when I was younger. I was in college, and I took a 2-week road trip from Indiana to the West Coast in a car. And I needed something to do. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to redefine myself. And during that moment, I realized that when I was driving those two days worth of travel and 2 weeks, on vacation, that it's not just about finances. It's not just about your, what your face looks like all the time. It's about everything. It's that your body remembers everything you've done, both good and bad. So if you put good things into your 13 dimensions of life, then when something hits, guess what? You are able to be resilient because you have something in place.
I love that. The resilience is not just about one aspect of your life. It's about many.
Right.
And, it's hard for me to come up with 13, but obviously this is something that you're really passionate about, something that's been on your mind a lot. In terms of the 13 dimensions, are you able to kind of go through them one by one and how they tie into each other?
Sure. I sure can. So the first one is your physical wellness and well-being. You need to embrace practices that promote your body to be healthy and vital. And I'm not talking about going on a special diet or, I'm talking about a lifestyle. And a good example would be if you talk to any trainer and they say, I'm working with an executive. And they'll say, but executives are busy. They don't have time to sit and drink 8 to 10 glasses of water. So instead, they provide a timer that says, okay, at this time you drink a glass of water. At this time, when you schedule those things into your life, fruits, vegetables, etc., good health care or for your face. Very early in life, my mother taught me, and she had me going to finishing schools and modeling schools, and the very first thing you learn about is how to use cleansers, toners, all the things that are important to bringing that physical health and beauty out. So you have to look at those. Then the second one is your intellect, your intellectual growth. And I'm not talking that you have to get another degree. I mean, some people like myself seem to be addicted to education and are lifelong learners, but there's other ways of being lifelong learners. That is, have you read a newspaper? Do you know what's going on in the world news versus the local news? Do you know about the plants in your yard? Lately, I've been studying up on hawks because I'm on 3 acres, and for some reason, there's a whole family of hawks that are living around my property, and I get to see them. Why are they sitting next to the squirrel they can eat? And all these different, and it's about gaining their trust. Because if they gain their trust, they can eat them whenever they want. So, you start learning these different things. The third one would be your emotional well-being. How are you practicing emotional intelligence? What do you know about emotional intelligence? Nurturing the capacity to understand others will help decision-making and change easier. The fourth one is personal integrity. We all like shortcuts.
Of course.
But guess what? Shortcuts don't always uphold the ethical values that we really believe in. If you really believe in being a good, kind human being, then those things have to be in your practice of being a good, kind human being. So whatever those personal integrity values, you define them. So you know how to practice them.
That's one of the core values of our office. Is integrity. Yeah.
And so how did you go about defining that?
It is doing the right thing even when it's not the most convenient thing.
Oh, isn't that hard sometimes? But you know what? Sometimes once you've done it, it's like a relief, isn't it? Like your whole body just relaxes. Remember, it's a dimension of life. So your body, if you're going against your own values, guess what? It feels it. It keeps it. It's almost like, you've had a cold or the flu, because when your body feels something that's not natural to who you are, it almost haunts you. Might as well be a ghost, because it comes after you, which kind of leads into the sixth one or the fifth one.
Sorry, I made you skip the fifth one. There you go.
The fifth one, the spiritual connection. It doesn't have to be a religion. I was born into the Christian faith, but my mom made us learn and study different religions, because 75% of it's the same. We all believe lying's wrong, killing's wrong, that we should love our neighbors, all of these, the main core values. But the other part of it is what's different is important, because that's where you're going to have your conflict. So if you have a spiritual practice within yourself, it doesn't have to be a religion, but meditation, understanding nature, then you have a deeper sense of purpose. So it kind of goes with that value system that you have in the personal integrity aspect of it, because you're building your value with your spiritual connection with yourself, others, and the world. I don't know about you, but have you ever had a deep conversation with someone that has a different idea of spirituality?
Not in a while. I'll be perfectly honest. I think the best time to do that was in college.
Oh, yeah.
Where you meet so many new people of different backgrounds from all different geographics. I remember I had 5 roommates my freshman year of college, and we were from all over the country. And of course, whenever some of their friends hang out, they come to our room, and there's the debates that fly, the almost shouting matches, but not really, passionate conversations, we'll call them. That was a time that you really yearn for in some ways. That kind of, hey, this belief system of yours versus this belief system of mine, I don't know if there's room to like, for me to believe what you believe or you to believe what I believe. At the same time, it enriches you, right? Just learning about other people, learning about other beliefs. It makes you more worldly, more cultured, more empathetic.
Empathy, definitely. You can put yourself in their shoes. When you are able to do that, it kind of goes back up to the emotional intelligence one, which is the number 3, because
yes.
when you can see things through others people's eyes, you can stop, listen, and navigate decisions, conflicts, etc., because you understand where they're coming from. Because the cultures are maybe different, the thoughts might be different, but really everybody wants a win-win situation. So I really think that the spiritual connection can't be taken away when you're talking about dimensions of life, even if it's a person that doesn't believe in, the traditional God system. Right, as far as beliefs, because that is within itself tells you a lot about how to put yourself in someone's shoes, if they're an atheist.
One thing I really like about that is that we're the only species where we can put ourselves in other people's shoes and identify with their experiences, their emotions.
Right.
That's really one of the things I lean into when it comes to our patient experiences, is that there are people from many different walks of life who come into our office with their beauty, wanting to feel more beautiful. And whatever life experiences they bring, that kind of plays into it as well. It's one of the things that we encourage our patients to believe is that, hey, you're beautiful and you're unique. And unique as a species, going back to your idea of being able to empathize with people, building spiritual connection, things like that. Also, unique in terms of your own beauty, right? There's never been a Rhonda Parker Taylor like you ever before, and there never will be afterwards.
They broke the mold, and that's probably good.
Love that.
Now, when you think about that, and you're talking about the uniqueness, that kind of goes into the next dimension, which is relationships, whether it be a romantic partnership or, just relationships in general. You have to foster meaning in them. And that's hard in today's busy society. And also in our competitiveness, especially in the United States, in this culture. So taking time to say, okay, what's my 1 year or 3 year, 5 year goals? People don't normally think about that when they're talking about their partnerships. What have you done today to nurture your relationship with your siblings? What have you done to nurture your relationship with your loved one that you might be a romantic partner? And a lot of times people will say, well, I don't have money to take them to dinner for a steak or, whatever. It's not about money. Have you written 101 ways that you, why you care for them? Let's say you have a meeting that's going to take you out of your home for a second. It takes, very few moments in today's world to type out, 101 reasons why you care for somebody or what you like about them or the different things that you can communicate because you're not going to be there for that dinner that, that you promised them. And then instead of just handing them a note, which you could do that maybe once, but maybe get a little bit more creative and make them like the little scrolls and put them in a little gift box where they can pull them out one by one. That costs nothing. That costs nothing. So, you have to kind of decide how in today's busy environment you're going to nurture meaning in those relationships. In today's world, you can do a group to your family that you can keep on going and just say, hey, what did you all have for dinner? Where you're not picking each phone up. Or if you're on a long drive and you have a hand-free environment where you can call your great aunt that's 90 years old and talk to her for 3 hours and while you're driving or whatever, you can literally put on your calendar things to bring meaning. And you know what? You feel more fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're humans doing most of the time. And I didn't say human beings. Humans doing. We have our little checklist, right? So,
Yep.
Human beings are connected.
Yes.
So are you
Absolutely.
being a human doing, or are you being a human being? My niece
I like
taught me
that.
that, and I thought that was one of the wisest things that anybody could ever teach me, to someone that thinks they know it all. I'm the
Absolutely.
older one. I'm supposed to know everything, but no, human doing is different than human beings.
Absolutely. I
And
love that.
and then you put that in. You kind of have to separate those relationships from the parenthood relationship, because yes, you want to create meaning with your children, but that's a little different than parenthood. That's a totally dimension of life, because you have to nurture them to be good human beings also, and have to nurture them to the next stages of their lives.
Right.
We often in my family laugh, because one of the transitions that we got, everybody got. My mom would do it where everybody at 10 years would get a new bicycle. And at 18 years, you got luggage. And why?
Yeah.
She said, you're either going to move out, get a job, go to college, travel, but you're getting out of here. You're ready. And if you watch nature, guess what? What does the bull always do when it's time to get the young ones away from the doe? Pushes them out, chases them off, and makes them leave the nest.
Right.
So you have to prepare them for that, but you have to have these rites of passages. So everybody in our family got, for their 18th birthday or Christmas, luggage. You knew it was coming on your 18th, though.
Yeah.
So, parenthood is different than a
tradition.
Relationship that's a peer relationship. So you kind of have to learn how to nurture and grow the next generation. Even if it's like in a youth group, or something else that maybe you don't have your kids in the nest anymore, you're still a parent figure in those scenarios.
Right. Like more of a mentor, loving, nurturing.
And then you have to think about the neighborhoods. Because if you're a good person in your own life, and you're keeping up your yard, your life, and your family, what about the rest of the neighborhood, the connections socially?
Yeah.
The social responsibility of building and maintaining a quality community, whether it be your churches. So that's even another dimension, because you handle those differently than you would your close inner circle. You have trust and verify. You have to learn to know when you're helping or when you're hurting a person from their own growth that you don't really know. Whether it be, getting involved in, your community, in community service, where it's in a safe environment to help others. Where you're not having what I call the God syndrome. You're creating a project with someone that you think you're going to help, but really you're too close to the situation to make any difference.
I see.
In some cases we try to, put ourselves in situations where we can't really help.
Yeah.
And it ends up feeling like you're giving too much and they're not getting it, because we're not putting them into a program that's with experts. That's why counselors don't work with people they know. They have a dual diagnosis or dual relationship. If they try to, they clouds their judgment. So finding the experts, making sure they're in your community to help, and building that community. That's a whole nother dimension than someone that you're close with.
Within this relationship dimension, there are other sub-dimensions, I guess. So we're still on number 6.
Well, really, we're kind of moved down to 8, but
okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah. So what I'm pointing out in that is, as I've moved through them, is these dimensions, even though they're relationships, they're different types of relationships, and you have to define them. I am one of those people that don't like to say no. So I find myself trying to have a dual relationship sometimes with people that I'm not an expert in. Yeah, I'll help you with the paperwork. Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I can do that. I can get you. But really, I'm hurting the person by taking away the knowledge that they would get by doing it themselves.
Mm. Yeah, it's a matter of agency too, allowing the other person to work through it as well.
Exactly. So those social connections are important in all three of those areas: your romantic and close relationships, your parenthood, and then your community. But then you get into something that's kind of totally different than the relationship aspect of your life dimensions, and that is your financial dimension. This is one we typically will write down. Maybe, okay, I'd like to have a house, or I'd like to have a retirement, but do we have the steps, and do we really understand what is needed to stick to it? All of you out there in the world that are listening, you're like, oh, that's easy. I don't make it, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but it doesn't take a lot. Even if it's starting out by saving in your piggy bank. Recently, we had a piggy bank rolling fund day, which everybody put their piggy banks down and we rolled it, and it was a year's worth of change, and it ended up being $346, and then it ended up shipped off to the bank because we needed the space to be able to put more money in the change box. So then there's your first deposit for a savings account. Yeah. It can be very, very easy. Start collecting things that have worth to it. Don't put all your money into a car. Cars, as soon as you drive them off the lot, lose most of their values. Buy a home. These kind of things can be easily put down in 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals. And if you're in debt and you're living paycheck to paycheck, my very first step to anybody is go through, get all the papers that you've been sent that you've been ignoring because you can't pay them, and get rid of all the duplicates.
Right.
Because you're throwing it in a junk drawer or something. And then you have something that you can manage and get control over and say, okay, this is the one that I'm going to handle.
Right.
This is the one that I'm going to handle. I can call and get financial assistance on this one because it's a medical bill. Most hospitals will help you with the bills that your insurance didn't pay if you apply for it. So gaining control is the first part of it. And then taking the steps. So your financial management, be wise. You can't eat out every day. Most people don't, and then when you do, be wise about it. During the pandemic, I wanted to eat DoorDash all the time because but I love to cook. Why wasn't I cooking? It became, like an addiction to treat myself. And really, I like cooking fruits and vegetables and doing all kinds of, slow cooking and barbecues and briskets and whatever, was on my desire. So why wasn't I doing it?
Right.
Which is nurturing my body and getting more nutrition, which is what I need. I'm getting old. I don't know if you noticed. I need you to come fix me. So, but really, that financial management's important. And then the 10th one is pursuit of your career or professional passion. Sometimes we take the job and we work the job, but where's our passion? We have lost it. So you don't have to change gears, but maybe you need to change attitudes, or maybe you need to change gears. But you have to kind of define what's important to you to bring your passion back into those things, because you spend 8 to 10 hours a day, some people more than that. You spend more time on your job in your career than you do anywhere else in your life.
That's right.
So what are you doing to bring passion and excellence and quality into that life? What's your 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goal, even in the position, not just when you're trying to move up the chain? Yeah. So that's real important to me, because as you pursue your career passions and pursuits, if you're not doing it, you have to decide, why aren't you doing it? My sister had a come to Jesus meeting with me. I had written Crossroads and it was sitting on my desk. And she says, why aren't you publishing it?
Right.
And I'm like, well, I have this client and I have this going on. And she said, no, you always get your work out the door. If it's somebody else's work, it's out faster than yours. And she says, you're afraid to be vulnerable. That goes back to your whole mission of the podcast, which is believing in self and knowing you're beautiful and knowing that you're accepted and all of these things. You have to know that if you are capable of something, you should share it. Now, does that mean every novel out there is going to be a bestseller? No. She says, you're afraid to be criticized, is what, and you see the reviews. She says, don't read the reviews. Just get it out. At first I argued because she's my older sister and I had to say, no, you're not right and you don't know what you're talking about. But after a few days, guess what? I was out searching for a publisher, which was Mind's Media, so because she was right. I was procrastinating on being who I was intended to be.
So you're holding yourself back.
Yeah. So that self-talk, that not believing and, not feeling that passion for self like I should have. And so you have to look at those professional pursuits and say, the ones that you have passion for that you're not doing, why aren't you doing them?
Right.
Why did you start your podcast? You're very successful at what you do. Why did you start that podcast?
So some people know this story. It was around this time last year, and I was getting the crap beaten out of me at a massage therapist office. And I said, all these nuggets of information, these positive messages of beauty that we're trying to convey to our patients, it needs to reach a wider audience. And so I started to document. This is based on my patients' experiences, how they feel about themselves when they first meet me at the office, and how we undergo a transformation and how they come out on the other side feeling about themselves. The ones who already have the inner security of I am beautiful always do better. Always. You could say objectively result-wise, but definitely psychologically, just the emotional component of, hey, I look different and I feel good. So that's where there are countless patient experiences that I've witnessed, and people in my industry. We all say that if you believe in your beauty and if you believe in the process, and kind of going back to what you said a little bit earlier about no shortcuts.
Right.
People always want the quick win. They always want I want to look more beautiful, but I don't want any downtime, or, the redness or bruising or what have you that comes with a professional beauty treatment or a plastic surgery. So that was my impetus to kind of chronicle these thoughts of my own that I want my patients to know about, and also the patients' experiences themselves, to say, hey, this is an anthology of what we want a patient's experience to be like. The reason that I invite guests like you is to expand the scope, not just of physical appearance and how you feel about that, but a greater sense of wholeness, a greater sense of wellness. And I know we're kind of taking a little interlude in your dimensions of resilience and well-being, but it fits right in.
It's a parallel, because like even the next step is 11, which is life satisfaction. And how are you building it into your life? How are you making yourself happy? How are you being content? And the one thing that you're probably finding with your clients is some are maybe going to become something else other than their own uniqueness. They, it'd be easy to say, I want to look like Heidi Klum, or they might have a celebrity crush of what they wanted, but is that what is best for them? I have in Crossroads, I use 3 emotions: anger, fury, and envy. Anger is cruel. Fury is overwhelming. But who can stand before jealousy? Envy makes the bones rot. It's a proverb. That's, those aren't my unique words. That comes from Proverbs.
Right.
That's part of that spiritual connection way up here on, in the dimensions. But if you're trying to be somebody else, you're taking away your beauty. You have to find the beauty that's within and build on that beauty. I could say I want the biggest house in the neighborhood, and I can say that it's got to be. Guess what? I don't want to hire cleaners to do it, and I'm not going to do it. I like the smaller house with a bigger yard. And then I have no problem hiring someone to do the yard, sure. Or me doing it myself. I like the critters. I like the nature coming through. So you have to know who you are to be fully satisfied. So if you're looking at everybody else's life and trying to duplicate it, you're missing out on what makes you unique and special and your own positive practice of self. And in today's social media, it's easy for us to say, make me do this or make me, be like that, But really, I would suggest to your clients, first, what do you like about yourself? What do you want to enhance and make people, see more? Is it the beautiful eyes? Is it the smile? Is it, your cheekbones are high? My generation, that was the big thing. We all wanted to have high cheekbones like Merrill Hemingway, right? Or Farrah Fawcett, So what is it that's beautiful about you that Dr. Kim can improve and enhance? And then that way you're fulfilling yourself. It's like you found your purpose in your own look or your own life.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that I think, going back to what you said about embracing your own uniqueness, and if you try to be like somebody else, you're depriving yourself in the world of what you have to bring to the world. And and it's not just the physical, it's how you bring it into your relationships. How do you bring it into your career? So that's a huge part of my message. I was like, when you were saying this, I was like, you're preaching to the choir.
But that's what, so many times we need to hear it too. I need to hear it even to myself. Having an accountability partner is very important. My sister has to have, and my husband happened to be mine. But, you have to have someone that's accountable when you get away from who you are. That holds you to the fire and say, wait a minute, you're so busy over here doing this that you're not even seeing that you're missing out over here on, for yourself. Or like, my husband told me when after Crossroads came out, he said, well, that's nice that you like that review, because that was my fear. And he said, but are you in it for popularity, or are you in it to write books? Right. And I had to think about that, and my goal in writing Crossroads is to have, this self-help book along with it. And it wasn't, it hadn't gotten to the publisher, and, so there was things that I was still holding myself back and trying to bask in not the purpose that I intended, So yes, you have to cultivate and fulfill your uniqueness. And mine in writing is not only to write the fiction, but if you liked the characters and you felt like you kind of were parallel with them, let's fix some of these, life balance issues, or let's fix the fact that you keep on getting victimized because you don't, because you're not practicing safety for self, So, that's a big part of who I am as a person. That's my uniqueness. So somebody else's might be that they can make the best coffee and that makes everybody happy and want to come see them in the morning. Or it might be that, they have the most beautiful hair or skin, or maybe they're the most fit. Because I know I could do better in the fitness area.
Me too.
So there's always something that we can improve on. And by knowing your uniqueness, I am a classic walker. I used to, when I was younger, jog, but I'm pushing 20 and plus some. And, I realized that, walking 3 to 5 miles is better for me than,
Wonderful.
But guess what? The young neighbor that's still jogging, I'm like, wow, I wish I could, I wish that was me. But you know what's best for yourself. Get life satisfaction out of what's best for your own unique circumstance, which then guess what that brings us to?
All right. Let's keep firing away.
Which is 12, which is your home environment.
Home. Mm-hmm.
What are you doing to enjoy it? Are you putting the china in the china cabinet and never using it? My mom used to say you could tell a woman by their china cabinet. And, I thought that was the stupidest saying growing up. I was like, why? What do you mean you could tell a woman by their china cabinet? But then one day, after going through a very hard time, I had gone through a divorce. I had moved. I had ended the first relationship after that. My son was shot and killed in a workplace accident. And I was sitting in my home, that my transitional home of all that, getting ready to move into a house. And I was looking around at what was I going to take. And I looked back, and here's this massive china cabinet with the china that she bought that was my, my style and choice. And it was still standing with me.
Okay.
It was about the only thing that was coming along that had been that whole journey with me. It had gone from move to move to move, but that sturdiness. And I was like, you know what? She's right. That dink came from when I moved here. This, this china was, and picked when I was young and naive and thought life was easy, beautiful, and so. And then all the little trinkets that I've bought from all over the world, scattered around the china cabinet, and I was like, you know what? She's right. There's little nuggets in your home that you should learn to enjoy. Are you sitting only on the old furniture because you want the new furniture to always be prestige? Well, sometimes you need to sit in that special couch. You know what I mean? You bought it for yourself. Maybe you don't eat there.
Yeah.
But maybe you can relax in that recliner and turn a television on and think, oh, this is the most comfortable, setting that I've ever wanted. So are you nurturing your living home environment? Are you opening up your blinds? Are you, looking at what makes you happy where you're at instead of what needs to be fixed? And sometimes you have to make a list of all the things you have to fix too. But, but, enjoy that home environment, because so many times we race out of our house and we don't care. But here again, this is who you are. So making sure we're supporting our living space, making sure that we're valuing it, making sure we're, supporting our well-being in our home. Is there a place for us to do the stretching, the meditation, the, spiritual growth, the intellectual growth, that we enjoy it? There should be a spot for all of those that you really feel comfortable going to. It doesn't always have to be the same way, but, some things are different than others that you might want to do that. So the home environment is who you are. It speaks to who you are.
We moved into our current place just over 2 years ago, and furnishing it is a very slow process. I thought, oh, we're 2 years in, everything should be decorated the way we want. It's not that case.
No, because sometimes it's a matter of not even a financial commitment to it. You can't find would look exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, and other times it's, you know, a spacing thing. You have to find the right space, you know, whether it be the couch is too small, too big, too, you know, whatever. You have to do that part too. And sometimes you just don't know yet. It hasn't spoken to you. It's like drawing a painting of what is this space supposed to be, and enjoy it, and just really enjoy it. Some people are better at it than others. I can't tell color for the life of me. I can say, I'll say, oh, this is off white. And they're like, people say, oh, no, that's not white. It's got a yellow in it, or it has a gray in it. And I'm like, oh, that's off white. So I know there's certain things that I'm going to have to ask for help from someone that's not, you know, that actually can see those tones.
The experts, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, so you know, get advice when you need it, obviously. Yeah. So then the last one of the 13 is long-term goals.
Long-term.
I say 1, 3, 5 years on all the other ones, but long-term goals are a little bit more clarifying who you are. It may change some, you know, because your aspirations can change. But who you are, your long-term goals financially, spiritually, should be fairly clear. Now, I can remember when life hit a few times and someone said, well, you know, fire your God. And I'm like, what do you mean fire your God? I can't fire God. And they said, because right now you're not believing. And redefine it. So I was sitting at, it was called Eagle Creek here. It's a nature park. And I was looking out over the water, and there was this spiny tree with no leaves. And I'm like, what do you mean fire? I'm still going over this concept of firing God. And then I like, okay, that's my God, because that's how I feel. It was a tree with no branches. It was dead. And, you know, and as I kept visiting and walking, guess what? And talking, the tree started to come back to life. And it started getting, it must have been damaged or something, or maybe, you know, who knows what had happened, but, you know, started getting leaves. And I'm like, is that the same tree? Right. So sometimes having long-term goals, yes, you have to change your ideology sometimes to reflect the moment and rebuild, you know. But, you know, when I was an educator for National College in Indianapolis, I was building my career to be an administrator of colleges. I was the campus president, and it was a small college. And, you know, I thought that was going to be the path the rest of my life. Right. But then that changed. You know, someone came in, and the son that I had raised, the young man, he was my adopted son, you know, was working. Someone came in with a gun and shot him.
Wow. That's terrible.
It was the same age group of what I was working with. So it was very hard to navigate. So I'm like, how can I take those same skills and make them transferable to something that can still bring purpose? And so that's when I started my practice and my consulting of being a mentor and consultant for students and people going in, changing careers. So, you know, it became a career development and student mentoring consulting company. So I'm still navigating and using the same skills, but at the same time, I was able to step back and redefine my long-term goal. And that was, I wanted to make a difference to people that needed help. Yeah. You know, the college student has taken that help.
I see. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's an unimaginable pain to have to go through. And nothing can ever bring him back. At the same time, you dug deep. You found a way to make something beautiful out of it.
Yeah, and you know what? This is a problem throughout the United States and in the Western cultures. And it's something we need to address. But meanwhile, we have to find purpose in pain. When you have when you find purpose in pain, what you can do is you can make a difference for others. So if there's anybody that's going through the hard times of such a a traumatic experience, what I would say is the pain does lessen. It never goes away,
Right.
but it does lessen. And if you follow Dr. Kim's advice of believing that you're beautiful and you have a purpose, and you will find a way through exploring the dimensions of your life and finding out where, you best fit in solving some of these problems. And that is starting with yourself and your community.
Yeah, I think, we think of beauty as relatively vain compared to the other things that we go through in life. And to that effect, a lot of what I work with my patients is relatively superficial in terms of the grand scheme of our day-to-day. At the same time, that is sometimes the tip of the iceberg when it comes to making a difference in the world. And going back to my mission, making the world a more beautiful place, that starts with each patient interaction. And sometimes I've noticed that people will call the office, not to make an appointment, but just to talk with my staff. And one of our patients, I can't say her name, of course, she called the office after her brother had a stroke. And she said, I just want to talk. And then maybe a week after that, she said, can I come in? And of course, we didn't set a formal appointment for her. She just came in, and whoever was available sat with her and talked with her. And that's a part of what we do. I mean, it's off the books, it's off the record, of course. At the same time, it's very impactful.
Well, and I think what you're saying is very important, because that's what CBT is, cognitive behavioral therapy, which we all need as talk therapy. We all need to talk to somebody. Your practice is similar to one of my good friends that I grew up with that's in fashion. They do the exterior part of predominantly women, but they do have men clients. They do the wardrobes and fashion for the people that can afford to have a stylist. Basically, they're stylists.
Right.
And one thing that he always has preached or talked about is that you have to know the inner beauty to be able to show the outer beauty.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's uniqueness, so you're bringing it out. And he always tries to help the person that his clients that he's working with not only see the beauty, but also take care of themselves to show it. Because you can put the best outfit on a person, but if they have to own it. And he always says, own it, own who you are, own that style, and believe in yourself. And if we all did that, then there would be less depression. There would be less envy. There'd be less greed, because we would feel the purpose within ourselves. And not to give up, and just to be patient with oneself is all part of that, because we're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be someone bigger, stronger, faster, longer legs, because that's what makes us all unique.
Yeah.
So when you find something that inspires you, and then you go to your office or my practice and you say, hey, let's improve upon this. Then when times get tough, that's kind of that reservoir that I was talking about, that you've already put something behind you, that when life hits and things are tough, you can still hold your head up with pride and know that you're going to make it through, because guess what? You've been nurturing yourself for years now before life hit again.
Yeah. What I notice a lot about our main patient demographic, it's Gen X moms. And so that generation always grew up learning and practicing pouring into other people, Right. You have to pour into your spouse. You have to pour into your kids. You have to pour into your community. And that is all good for those people. And it gives you a sense of purpose and fulfillment. The flip side of it is that potentially you could be draining your reservoir if you don't take care of yourself in the same time.
People say, well, I don't have time. Guess what? You're never going to have time.
Life gets only busier.
Yeah, you have to schedule it just like you do your kids' carpool or your, the basketball game or, the meet, the Zoom call. You have to schedule it. This is the time that I'm going to drink the bottle of water. This is the time that I'm going to stretch. Because I sit at my desk all the time. You figure I'm in academics and I'm a consultant. I sit. This whole part of my body is like a little tin soldier all the time, because I even with the Veridesk is standing up, I try to put that in, but there's just some things I'm like, I can work faster if I sit down. So you have to put it into practice that you're going to take care of yourself and and realize that taking care of yourself requires loving yourself.
Yeah. Just going back to, you were mentioning Proverbs, but in the scriptures they say love your neighbor as yourself, which means if you can't love yourself, you can't love your neighbor, right?
Right. That's yes, that's very true. If you're not loving yourself, how are you ever going to have the reservoirs to when life hits? That means you're always going to be stressed. When you're a child, they call it ACE, adverse childhood experiences. And for every adverse childhood experience, they say there's a higher, probability that person's going to suffer from mental health issues when they get older. Right. So, ACEs. How many ACEs are you providing yourself daily when you're not taking care of yourself? ACEs, isn't just child abuse. It's moving, it's divorce, it's changing schools, it's not eating right. There's all of these things that are ACE experiences, and we're doing them to ourselves. That's almost like instead of a self-love, that's like a self-hatred. Right. Or ignorance.
Yeah, and life throws enough of those at you where you don't need to add them to yourself, right?
Right. So the practice of being positive in your own life is very important. And I'm not perfect. Trust me. Every day I have to remind myself, okay, time to shut the computer off and electronics, time to walk, time to do, I have to, because it's very easy to get sucked into what you think at the moment is important, but then once you get away from it, you realize, okay, this was just as important as the other dimension. And my dimensions is I very easily can be a workaholic. I very easily can be too engrossed in my social connections that I'm not taking care of the other connections. So, you kind of have to just go through those different dimensions daily and say, what haven't I touched today?
When you were writing Crossroads and getting it published, which one of those dimensions did you feel like you struggled with the most?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never been asked that question before. The one that I've struggled the most with was realizing that it can't be done in a day, probably. So it was the realizing that it was going to be the process of professional pursuit daily. So one thing that I normally say to new authors or people that want to be authors, there's like, oh, I want to write a book. Do I just go off to a cabin somewhere? And I said, well, will your life let you be there for a year? That's the first question, because, there was and I can't think of the author's name, and she said, to write fiction, you have to have money for a girl to write fiction. And I thought, well, that was scary because I want to write some fiction. But the reason she said that is because you have to be able to detach from parts of your life to be able to do it, and then finding a publisher, etc. So 1 page a day, though. If you can put in your pursuits, you've got all these other professional pursuits that you're wanting to do, and you put 1 page a day, 250 words typed You can either do it with dictation or you can do it with, your own typing, however you want to do it. I don't care. But, get it down. Get the story out.
Yeah.
Maybe it might only be 100 pages the first round you go through it, but maybe it won't. It might be all 300 for a novel. But 100 pages a day, and it's done in a year.
That's true.
Or 1 page a day. 100. Or I think I said 100 pages a day.
One page. Mm-hmm.
1 page a day, and it's done in a year. 300. That's 365 days in a year. So that's a novel. In answering your question, it would be the professional pursuits and home environment to support it. Because if you don't have your computer in a place that is inspiring to you to write, and where you can get your thoughts together, then I would say those would be the two most challenging things for an author, is to have a place that, same thing if you're going into college and you're trying to do it from home as an adult and you have 2 kids running around, you have to have a spot that you can shut everything off for a second and get that work done.
Yeah.
So that supports you being successful. So, the other part that's really not in the dimensions, but that I believe it very well could be, is creating your creative side. How are you going to do the research part of it? And I kind of think it's already in there, but your creativity kind of nurtures your spirituality and your emotions and everything, and your mood. That's why
Absolutely.
in rehabs and a lot of psych type of counseling, they have people paint or music and things like that, because it alters moods or color.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but those would be the ones that it probably life balance, though, is all about Crossroads. If anybody that never seen it, but here's Crossroads.
Wonderful.
And it's about a young woman that's a workaholic. She's totally out of balance in all of her areas except for her career pursuits. She's an IU grad. She thinks she's at the top of her career in Indianapolis, and she gets called to jury duty. And if you know any workaholic and you throw something new into their schedule, it completely causes chaos.
Right.
And Meryl Hemingway, when she reviewed it, she's, one of her things is everybody comes to a crossroads where they have to decide what's important to them. And that's what the whole premise of the trial and of her things is, like a game of Clue. And my goal in it is that for people to realize that, you have choices that you can make that can alter the outcome. Paris doesn't make those choices. And what ends up happening is she becomes the victim in this, and they have to decide why things are happening to her.
Yeah.
And all
Paris is
of
the protagonist, just to clarify for our audience.
Yes. So it's important that we all come to a place, and like Meryl Hemingway said, even chocolate has an expiration date.
No way.
Yeah. So even the good things in our lives have to be reevaluated, and we have to rethink things, and we have to always change, whether it be, hey, we need a peel today because, hey, guess what? I'm getting, some fine lines, or whether it's, I need to go back to school, or, whatever those things that we have to redefine. You're coming to a crossroads in that. Yeah. And you're saying, okay, it is time for me to take action into something. And when we do that, then we get that life satisfaction back.
I love that was one of my questions that I had written down to ask you, is how you came up with the name Crossroads. And I think you already answered it.
That is, and then also Indiana, since it's based in Indiana, I wanted to add some history of areas that I knew. So Crossroads of America is what Indiana's known for. And the railroad tracks, every single one of the scenes is a real scene. So even though it's not true crime, I picked real places in Indiana. It's not some fictional areas. So the railroad tracks are off 38th and Guyan, and and it tells you where it is in Indianapolis. So Crossroads for Indiana is known for coming together for sports, but it's also an area that's right in the middle of the country, and so it was one of the most hit by the Civil War. It tore most families apart. Half would be because they were for the South, half was because it was they were for the North, and all that history I tried to bring into the book so that people could see that. Yes, we have corn. Yes, we have. Yes, but we also have a deep history here that's shown in the buildings and shown in the traditions of the family here. I'm hoping it's an intriguing journey for people, and those that like it can go to the. I have the front page of Crossroads of the Life Balance book.
Yes.
So look at this one. You can see that this is our body. This is who we are. And all of these little things all around us, if we get any one of them out of balance, you'll be at a chiropractor again. If you're doing a practice and daily focusing on the lessons of the things that you see, you'll find that life navigation is easier. And you not only are captivated by everything else in the world, you're captivated by yourself. And that's what you do. I know. I mean, I've seen some pictures and some testimonies of what you do, and I highly recommend that if anybody wants to pursue not only just the inner but also the outer part of their beauty, get a consultation. Whether it be from you, from me, and pursue it. Because when you surround yourself with positive people and professionals and experts, then you become that person too. Right.
Yeah. And when can we expect the release of the self-help book? Yes.
It was supposed to be out in May. I hate to tell you that. They're a little bit behind. But I will say it. They haven't given me the new date, so I am going to say it will be out by September. But it should be out. It's I think next month, but we'll see. So
wonderful.
They have it in their hands. It has been released from my desk, and the publisher has it. So now it's a matter. They're not changing any of the actual work, but it's making it come alive through the pictures of it in it too, because it's a workbook where people can go through and we really want it to work people through complete evaluation of all 13 dimensions. So pictures and things like that are important.
Absolutely. In terms of your saying, I'm finished writing Crossroads, I'm finished writing about these 13 dimensions. I don't know about you, but for me, when I have a project and I'm always thinking, oh, it could be a little bit better, or it could be a little bit better. And it's that perfectionism kicking in. How did you kick that and say, this is done and this is ready. It's a beautiful work and I'm going to release it to the world?
There's no such thing as a perfect document. You have to understand that. People will go through and they'll find a typo someplace or a missed character or a fact. So you have to realize that, it doesn't matter whether it's King, Kuntz, Grisham, me, you, there are always going to be areas you can improve. And for me, the one way I edit along with the editors is I let my computer read to me the manuscript, and I'm reading along with it, and I'm making notes and changing, making notes and changing, and then I wait a day and I do it again. And then eventually, after about the 100th time, I know I'm changing these, and, changing words that might add flavor, but aren't necessarily, it's not wrong anymore. It's a matter of, okay, I've refined it to a point that I'm just word changing.
Yeah.
Then I know it's done, because you can continue to do that for another 10 times,
sure.
Or you could continue to do it, and it might not get any better. Now I did, and then when I released Crossroads, there was a fact that was not in. I did a second edition of it, which it wasn't that big of a change. But the one comment that I saw that was kind of in the reviews was, "I wished I would have known what year this was done."
All right.
And so I went up, and that was easy to turn it into, put it into the first few pages. It was very easy to add it, and because it added context.
Right.
So sometimes too, it's getting. You definitely need a beta reader of some sort that reads through it, not just the editor, but somebody that says, that's not thinking of it from the technical aspects of it.
Yep.
It's looking at it from the reader's aspect of it.
Yeah. I think when it comes to writing a book, obviously there are many readovers, many edits, and you have to say, this is a work that I'm going to finish and release to the public, and this is going to be what it is. When it comes to our beauty, I feel like a lot of people, and this can kind of go back to looking at social media and saying, oh, I want to look like this person, or I'm not as beautiful as this person. And it can just be an endless hamster wheel. Mm-hmm. And even when it comes to the work that I perform for my patients, they could be on the operating table. I could be changing the shape of their nose, and I could be saying, oh, let's change that, or let's change that. And for me, definitely there comes a point at which, after a certain amount of time and a certain number of maneuvers, I say, I'm just trying to do better, which is the enemy of good. Right. And so for me, there's as the surgeon, and then as the patient, the process of enhancing your beauty to be a more beautiful version of you. Sometimes there's kind of a diminishing returns point. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I think the difference between us, our physical bodies, and let's say something that we create, like a video or a book, is that our appearances and our beauty change over time too. So it's a journey, much like you went on a journey to write Crossroads, and you're just finished your journey to release a self-help book. I enjoy that journey. And I think a lot of the 13 dimensions that you mentioned have that overall arching context of journey. Right.
And if we do the journey, whether it be writing or, physical fitness or reevaluating our looks or going to school, when we do a journey and we put a plan in place, we are working on our skills at a totally different level. We're owning who we are. Mm. And when you own who you are, you realize that, you don't need others to elevate you. You've just elevated yourself.
I love that. I really enjoyed talking with you about Crossroads, about, this in some ways it's kind of your life story. Mm-hmm. The aches that you were talking about, the aces, the aches, however you say them, to find purpose in your pain, to create something beautiful, to share with the world. So I really appreciate your time joining me to discuss how you're making the world a more beautiful place.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate you having me, and everybody out there. You have a blessed day, and know that you are beautiful no matter where you are in the world and what you're doing.
Absolutely. There's one more question before I go that I have to ask every guest. Besides your work, where else do you find beauty in your life?
I find it in the connections, whether it be human or critters. I find the world the most fascinating thing that you could ever watch or study and enjoy. One of the things that I do daily is I put bird feed out. And because I am on a property that's, even though I'm in the middle of the city, I'm literally in the middle of Indianapolis, but I'm on 3 acres. And the critters, all of all sorts. I have hawks. I have squirrels, rabbits. I have, if anybody wants to go to my Facebook page, I post them. But I watch the deer. I watch, all these different animals that travel through because they know I put bird feed out at the same time every day. So literally I have pictures on there where a hawk will be sitting next to a squirrel, and a squirrel will be sitting next to a rabbit, and a rabbit will be sitting next to a blackbird, and then all around the bottom might be their babies, and they're all eating the bird feed. Now eventually that hawk will go after the squirrel, and there'll be total chaos in the neighborhood. When we value the world, whether it be people or nature, you find yourself in awe of its beauty. And it doesn't take long to find it.
Absolutely. There's something timeless about that, right?
Yeah. It's something that, you just sit there and you look at it and you hear all the different sounds, and it's like, you know what? It couldn't be created any better. And yes, we have problems, but we have more similarities within the human race and within the human to species races than we would ever think possible. And we all,
Absolutely.
and the beauty is watching it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful world at the end of the day. And thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So everybody, thank you for joining me on today's episode of the You Are Beautiful podcast. You can find Rhonda's book, Crossroads, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And be sure to look out for her upcoming book about the 13 Dimensions of Wellbeing. Again, thank you, Rhonda, very much for being on this episode. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you. Take care. Until next time, remember, you are beautiful, you are unique, and you are worth it. Take care, everyone.